Hello and welcome. My name is James McNeil. This is a video series entitled The Emotionally Intelligent Fighter, and hopefully you found us at the mentalmma.com. This particular video is entitled Predator or Prey, and you may have heard of terms around who's the leader in this fight, who's dictating the pace, who's dictating whether it's on the feet or whether it's on the ground, who's dictating, who's leading. And so please do understand that there will be a power struggle in all fights. Well, even in every conversation, in every group get-together, there is always someone who's taking the lead, and sometimes there's battles for leadership. So in all contexts of human interactions, it's true. In MMA, of course it's true that someone will be taking the lead, and sometimes it's hard to know who's taking the lead. Sometimes a person who appears to be holding back is actually luring the other person in. They're actually leading in a very passive way. So predator or prey, let's understand this a little bit more. Da-da-da. Let me do it here. Okay, so first thing I wanted to talk about is the game plan. If you have a good game plan, if a fighter has a game plan going in, and some camps, by the way, some training camps are masters of this. The person who comes to mind is Greg Jackson. I'm a raving fan of Greg Jackson's camp. If there's any way I can help you guys, please let me know. I'll fly down in a heartbeat. Game plan. To have a game plan going into a fight, one that's not so simple as I'm going to get him, but I'm going to outwork him. Well, outwork him, going to get him. I have more juice. In a recent Diego Sanchez fight, when he was fighting BJ Penn, he was talking about how he can't handle my pace, and he can't handle my energy, unrelenting energy. Well, that's not enough to beat somebody. There needs to be more. And Diego Sanchez is a very intelligent young man who did train at Greg Jackson's camp and had developed game plans. And I think maybe some focus on the game plan would have helped there. But not for me to judge. What I can do, though, is say that having a clear game plan helps, and not a simple one, but a complete one that says, my goal is to do this and then to do this, to focus there and try and move it in that way and try and take it this way, but a game plan that allows for any kind of possible variation. When the other person does this, I'm going to do that. When they do this. So it's not a simple game plan. I'm going to walk out there, punch him in the nose, he's going to fall down. Well, let's hope that works, because if you don't have a backup plan, that's pretty limiting. So having a game plan that has some variations, some variables. Next, being the leader, dictating the fight. Fighters will seek to impose their will. That's actually pretty important. If you can impose your will on this other person, like right away. Some do that by attempting that, by the way, by running across the cage or across the mat to try and reach the other fighter before the other fighter can get ready. And so sometimes people do that. I find it interesting when when someone wants to do that and the other person puts out their hand to kind of touch gloves before they fight. It ruins their whole mental game plan right there. So be mindful that there's more than one way to take that leadership role, to begin to dictate the fight. But it is important that that is established. Notice, if you're a gambler, who tends to dictate and who tends to take a lead and how they tend to do that. And then think about how that initiating of leadership relates to their competitor and how they do it. Because it is one of the key elements. Who dictates the fight? And sometimes that leadership role, the dictating the fight, shifts back and forth, of course. Normally that happens when let's say fighter A has a game plan and fighter B does something completely unexpected. It's the fighting someone who is a ground game specialist, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist. They are not a striker, they are this. And then all of a sudden they come out striking, and it just startles the other fighter. So person A has a plan, person B does something unexpected. Okay. The question is, at that point, can you be responsive, or will you be reactive? Reactive says, I'm a victim on the other side of their behavior. They're doing the thing. I'm simply responding. And sometimes when someone's on the ground, on their back, let's say, has someone else in their guard, if they have what's called an active guard, I'll often hear Joe Rogan talk about that on the UFC fights. He'll say, oh, they have an active guard, and it doesn't allow the other fighter to set up a ground and pound or a submission. That doesn't give them time to plan, to do something, because they're busy reacting to what the other person's doing. It doesn't give the other person a chance to breathe. And a lot of fighters have specialized in that, the Clay Guidas of the world, who just try and frustrate someone to say, boy, I wish I never fought that guy, because he's on them relentlessly. And George St. Pierre, being called George Rush St. Pierre, is one of those fighters as well. Many fighters will take the game at such a pace that the other person doesn't have time to think. And so when the other person startles you, are you just reacting, or can you actually take, with mental game, with the emotional intelligence, actually say, oh, okay, they did this, therefore that, therefore this, therefore that, therefore I'm going to do this, and actually regain a leadership role by being responsive to say, oh, I see what they're trying to do, let me counter, let me move now over this, and I'll use that against them, and it'll end up over all this thinking. Without that mental game to be able to take that logic up to that next level, I cannot regain leadership by being responsive. I will fall into being reactive, and then I'll be hoping for the best from a very reactive stance of hopefully I can survive, not hopefully I can win. So be mindful of that. This is the part of the mental game of mixed martial arts called predator or prey. Someone's going to be taking the leadership role. Someone's going to be dictating the fight. And if you're a mixed martial artist, I encourage you strongly to think about how you can always be a step ahead, always be 3 steps ahead, always have a plan, have an answer for everything. Freddie the Answer Edgar, the answer, always having an answer. No matter what the other person comes up with, you had a plan. You thought about that possibility, and you're ready. And you can be responsive. So thinking ahead is a major part of what makes a mixed martial artist successful, and I hope again that helps. This is mentalmma.com, your information source for the mental game of mixed martial arts. Thank you so much.